In today's episode of Welding and Wheeling, we're going to finish up our dirt cheap Argo and get it out on the trail. So in the last episode, we drove an hour north and then broke down on the way home. Once we picked up our Argo, we had to clean it all out and kind of assess the damage from it sitting with water in it for a few years. We got the Vanguard 16 horsepower fired up and running. And we even took it for a little spin afterwards. Alrighty, welcome back everybody. This is our second part on our 1999 Argo Vanguard 2 that I picked up for $500 and brought back from the dead. I haven't done a lick of anything to this thing since the last video. Had to sit outside because I ran out of garage space. But we had it on a tarp, and we also jacked it up here, got the front end off the ground, so hopefully any water that gets into it drains out the back, which I think didn't work. But that's on the floorboard, so that's okay. It didn't look like we got any down in the chain, really. Yeah, that looks relatively dry down there. Anyway, the subject of today's video is getting the electric start, really replacing it because there's no starter on it now, so we got to get a starter on it, check out all the wiring, see what's going on there, install a new battery. I want to get the winch working. And then we're going to take this thing for one proper shakedown ride. That's not in my backyard. We're going to take this thing down to Hanson Hollows in Iowa. I don't know, Spragville, Iowa, I think it is. And see what this thing can do. So we get the finest starter that $40 on Amazon could provide. And man, am I really kicking myself for not doing this while the engine was out of this thing. It would be at least 5 times easier. This thing's got to go down in there somewhere. As soon as I find a hole it'll fit in, it's going in there. So I gotta find where that goes without being able to see it, and then hopefully 2 of our bolts in our random assortment of bolts that I found floating around on the floorboard of this thing actually go to it. I'm gonna send you guys on an expedition. See if you can find the bolt holes. So there's the hole for the starter. You see anything? I hope you did. Well, I caved and pulled the engine out. All we did was undo this cover, and then the 2 bolts were thankfully in there. So we landed those, and let's go ahead and see what this thing does when we test it. So I got my jump pack sitting on the ground. Send some voltage to it. Oh, shoot. I forgot this thing doesn't need ignition power. Cool. All right, I filled up the bowl of the carburetor because there's one more test I would like to do. And I want to see if the charging system is working. So I think we should be getting somewhere around like 28 to 30 volts out of this little wire right here. And that'll tell us that our stator or coil, whatever you want to call it, is working good. So let's fire it up one more time. All right, that's being a little bit of a dummy, actually. Our DC voltage should be coming out of this, which was still low. I checked it again, and I popped this connection undone, and we were only getting like 10 volts at medium throttle. So, like I said, supposed to get like 28 volts out of here, so something is up with our stator, which means we get to pull the 800 bolts out that hold this cover on to look at this gnarly flywheel, I bet. It's probably going to be disgusting and corroded, and that's probably what our issue is. Or a bad stator, I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and tear this cover off now. Ooh. Ooh. I am really surprised this thing had spark. Oh, man. I really should get the RTV out of here, put a gasket in here. Yeah, I think I just opened up a can of worms, probably, huh? Oh, well. It's a good can of worms. All right, takes a 1 1/4 socket. we need a bigger battery. All right, let's try this guy now. That's insane that batteries have that big of an impact on impact. All right, I cleaned up the threads on those 2 bolts there, and then I cut this piece of steel out of some junk 3/16 I had. Let's see if we can't get this flywheel to pop now. I think our flywheel popped. Yeah, it did. Heck yeah. Love when that works. Sorry, I think I'm blocking your guys' light, aren't I? Probably. Seems like something I would do. I think that puller might have been single use. Yeah, buddy. There we go. Huh. I wonder why it doesn't want to charge. What a frickin' mess. I don't know what that is, but a lot of our coils are just junked. Looks like there's a spring stuck in here too. Ugh. I think our flywheel's good though. I see him. No, that's the Woodruff key. Okay, good. Yeah, all this looks good. Just needs to be cleaned up. I bet this is part of the reason why that engine seemed seized when I first bought it. So I hose these things down in penetrating oil, but they're not giving me any warm and fuzzy feelings. Let me grab a smaller hammer. Side note, I spent $3 on this thing at a yard sale. What a freaking steal. All right, we got a better suited hammer for the job. We got a manual impact here. I think that's our best. All right, there's one. I think my mom gave this to me for Christmas. It was a great gift. It was either my mom or my dad. All right, I was just talking to you guys for like 3 minutes and then realized I didn't turn the camera on. But I went ahead and popped off the 2 ignition coils as well. We'll clean those all up. I think they're plenty savable, and they're on the outside of the flywheel, so it's not a big deal to replace those down the road. And the other night when I was ordering the parts for the charging system, I was trying to think of what else needed to be done, and I remembered seeing all this goop, and it's even back here on the intake into the head. And I personally do not like seeing RTV on intakes, carbs, stuff like that. I would rather see a gasket. So we're going to put a gasket in there, and that'll hopefully probably take care of some of our stumble that we had. Maybe. We'll see. So with the engine cleaned up, I decided to go ahead and spritz on some paint on our flywheel. Just so after I power washed it, I didn't want it to rust up again. Definitely not perfect, but it'll look a lot better than what it did before. All right, so here's the engine. Now actually, now that I brought it inside, it doesn't look that good. But we got a good bit of the rust out of here. You know, like we got this all cleaned up. We got all the flaky stuff that was gonna come off to come off. Really, the only way to get all that gunk off that aluminum and stuff would be to probably soda blast or sandblast this thing. So anyway, We have our new stator, the best stator that Amazon could find us for like 30 bucks. That's all installed, and we're ready to put our flywheel on. Before we painted the flywheel, I cleaned up the inside as well. There was a ton of debris in here on the magnets. I still got a little bit to wipe away before I install it, but looking a lot better. All right, now that the flywheel's on there, our next step is to set our air gap on our coils here. Looks like what I could find online is 15 thousandths. So we already set up that one. Let's bring the magnet on around here. Ooh, it's a strong magnet. And we have our 15 thousandths feeler gauge in there now. Snug that one up. And snug this side up. So while we were disassembling this thing, I noticed that there was gasket maker squeezed between the intake flanges on the heads and the carb between this adapter and all. So decided to go ahead and pull that all apart, and we have some genuine Briggs & Stratton gaskets. I think I got 2 intake gaskets and only 1 carb. So that kind of stinks. I'm gonna have to make the second carb gasket, I guess. Which I was just looking, I think, I don't know. Thought maybe there was an air passage in here. I have to clean it up and see. Maybe not. But we'll just go ahead and scrape this all off. Make sure we get a nice clean surface for our new gaskets. So one of the reasons I was worried about this and figured it was worthwhile to do this, A, we were right here. Might as well throw some gaskets in it. But I don't like this gasket maker stuff for intakes because I think this is a little vent here. Now it's plugged full of goop. I have to dig that out. Because you look here, this is the gasket. This one's not bad. This one only has that one that might be a vent. It might not even be a vent. I don't know. But a lot of times, sorry, you can't really see that. A lot of times you'll have all kinds of vents going through down into your intake for vacuum pressure and stuff. Or sometimes they just vent right to there. This one seems like it just vents. It might be like a little air gap in there. I don't know. Probably not a big deal, but putting new intake gaskets in here might help us get rid of that bog it has right off idle. I'm probably gonna end up having to clean this carburetor now that I've got all this gunk around here. Well, now that we got all the goop cleaned off the bottom of the carburetor and the intake, like I said, I needed to make one more gasket here. So we got it knocked out with our template of the one I did buy. Definitely didn't take 5 tries to get one crappy looking gasket, but we got it, whatever. So now we could slap this all together and throw it back on that engine. All right, well, the channel is called Welding and Wheeling for a reason. We got to do some welding in just about every damn project I have. In this case, it's just a little TIG tack fixing this heat shield. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Let's see if we can turn it into a big deal, huh? TIG welding galvanized, not ideal. We'll do it anyway. Ooh. What is this stuff? I think it's just galvanized, but it's welding really bad. All right, that was really weird to weld. I don't know what was up with that, but we just destroyed my tungsten and my last cup that I have for my TIG welder, so we're gonna live with it. I thought it was galvanized, but it's acting even weirder than that. All right, we got it all back together now, and I do want to go ahead and test fire it once more on the bench. Make sure our starter works, make sure all the changes I made to the fuel system, also threw new plugs in it, so let's just see if it cranks up. We do have an actual tank hooked up to it this time. All right, my choke cable, or linkage, was not set up correctly, but we got that corrected. Now let's try and fire it up. See if we can gravity a little bit of fuel, but that pump should be picking it up. Seems to run about the same as before. This engine has only gotten heavier with the addition of the starter. Alright, now we just got to button everything back up again for the second time. Alright, we finally got this little Briggs set back in its place. Really not too complicated to pull the engines in and out of these. 2 cables, 1 belt, fuel line, 2 wires, a muffler. But those motor mounts, man, they suck. They're like up under there. There's all kinds of brackets under the motor plate, so you can't really get a ratchet. I don't know, like each bolt you have to go at with a different tactic, which kind of stinks. We're gonna go ahead and get these last couple things finished up and hopefully fire this thing up again. So I snagged a battery. Didn't get back to working on this thing till late last night, so I didn't bother filming anything. But we got a slightly different style battery. These terminals are not, the old terminals were like the screw-on adapters, and I don't like those, so I just opted for the biggest, hossest lawnmower battery I could get. This is a lawnmower engine after all. So we got that in. We cleaned up all of our connections, put some new connections in some places. So we're now grounded. I grounded to the chassis of the machine and over to the, I put a jumper over to the motor as well. So we're all good there, but we still don't have action. And I think that is because of our solenoid, but one nice thing, our winch works, which is sweet. So, and it's nice, it's key on only, which is really cool. So, although we don't have it on the key, I should have it on the Leatherman. Use the old zip ties and bias splash trick here. Woohoo! So that's nice. If it starts giving me issues out on the trail, I can at least do that instead of having to pull it all the time. You know, it didn't like all the choke, I guess. We also got this air duct on. What a royal pain in the neck to get that down in there. Probably should have cleaned it up before I put it in there because it's now in there for forever. And lastly, we installed a strap to hold our battery in because our original battery mount's kind of smoked. So I think we're all ready to go. We made it through the tornado last night. It was really nothing. There was just some winds and a tiny bit of rain. So I got the Power Stroke fired up over here. We're gonna go ahead and get that pulled forward. I'm gonna winch this up on there and we're gonna take it for a little spin tomorrow. So we got it fired up and moved over here. It's gonna be a tight squeeze. Like like half an inch difference between the width of this thing and the width of my boxes. To make it a lot easier though, we have the winch spooled out on the Argo. We've got it hooked up over there, and then we've got our sweet Warren setup. Thanks, Kane. He gave me this like 5 years ago. I use it all the time. Little short strap, snatch block, shackle, make it kind of a nice even straight pull. So let's see what happens. It's a really fast winch. So you can kind of see the situation from this angle a little better. Not working as smoothly as I had hoped, huh? Wish it wouldn't have shut off, but we'll just keep winching it and see what happens. So the ramp's twisted, and it's definitely not going to fit past the box. Well, it took a lot of fighting, but we winched it back and forth and kind of shimmied the back of the thing around and finally got it past. So I'm going to go to the other side and hit the winch button, and you guys let me know if it hits on the second tire. Well, I've definitely hauled heavier and larger loads, but nothing quite so wide. We have just not even a pinky of clearance there, and less than that over here. That is a little cattywampus. There's some more space at the front. It's on there, but you're not fitting much else, that's for sure. It is kind of cool though. 97 Ford, 99 Vanguard, so we're rolling like a 90s proper outdoorsman. Sweet. Alrighty. It's next morning and it's beautiful out. Pretty cold this morning, but it's warmed up now. Get the old Argo fired up, warmed up, or warming up. Should be ready to take it for a little spin. But I tell you what, this thing seems like a bad omen for the Power Stroke. It's about an hour drive down here. The whole time the transmission was acting up. I think I know what it is, and I think it's something simple, but we'll have to check back in at the end of the video. But that makes me want to get rid of this thing quick if every time it's around the truck it causes me problems. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing unloaded and see what it'll do. Is it? Ridiculously cool. So I did bamboozle Madeline into coming with me today. It was going to be rather cold for the whole day. How mad would you be if I just flipped it? Alright, there we go. I heard something fall. Ah, don't die on me. No. Okay. Ugh. Why are you no happy? Might have just stalled out, I hope. The carburetor still definitely has a miss. Like that. Yeah. There we go. Be really nice if I installed that solenoid. Put that in the back for now. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's a wild ride, huh? Huh, it seems really unhappy now. We were kind of goosing it. Not sure. There's a bunch of goop down there by that chain. I'm hoping that's just chain lube flying off of there, though. I did douse the crap out of these chains. Wouldn't want to lose my awesome shades. I don't think it's getting enough fuel.
be happy with a little bit of choke. Definitely got plenty of power. Burns pretty well on a dime. That way's like a rock ledge, and I don't think we want a rock ledge crawl this thing. Seems like a good way to flop it back on us. Alright, high range seems perfectly fine for cruising. I guess low range is just if you were towing something or really pulling a gnarly hill. Ow. Now it seems happy without choke, so not sure what's going on. I think maybe we don't have a reliable supply of fuel to the car. We can make it at that, right? That didn't sound good either. Alright, I just high centered the crap out of it. Can you pull it? If I push you, can you drive it? Heavy. Alright, give it a little throttle. You got it.
Pull back to stop.
Yep. There you go. plenty of power. This is pretty steep.
So shortly after this clip, I headed for the woods where it gets a little muddy. And of course, I thought I had the camera on, and I didn't, and I completely missed myself getting stuck. So use your imagination.
I forgot my strap like an idiot. Which is not the right thing to do, but we're gonna do it anyway. All right. Sorry, tree. Hope I don't stunt your growth too bad. All right, although I'm being stupid about hooking right to that tree, I'm not gonna be stupid about trying to dampen this cable because I put my jacket on. Works great though. That pulled it right out of there. It's really fast too. Let's go ahead and try not to get stuck again though. You want to see where I rolled the mini Jeep? Woo! Right there. Yeah. Alright, I've somehow convinced Madeline to try it. You want me to put it in low?
Huh?
You want me to put it in low?
Probably.
Okay. The car you drive every day is much scarier than this.
That's not true. I just never used hand control.
Come on, you can do it.
Huh?
You can do it. Kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah. be doing pretty good, so I think we're gonna leave it out on a good note. All right, we got the little Argo back in the driveway after its flawless performance. We just power washed a few pounds of mud off the thing. This thing's not easy to wash with the 6 tires and deep tread. Really kind of held the stuff in there. Anyway, now that we've got it all cleaned up, I didn't bother filming that. I want to finish the last few things. So I did some thinking. I need a new cap, and I went and stole the one off our parts mower. So I think I'm going to pull this off, dust it up real quick, then maybe just shoot it flat black to get rid of the Cub Cadet. Just because that looks a little silly, doesn't it? It's not a Cub Cadet by any means. Heck yeah, so I was going to paint this thing because I wanted to get rid of the Cub Cadet thing. But that's just a nice little sticker that popped right off of there. So now we don't have to worry about painting that. And then the last thing I need to do is go ahead and throw a starter solenoid on it so we can start it from the seat, hopefully. So let's go ahead and get that done before it gets dark out here. All right, we get the new guy in there. Let's see if it works. Oh yeah. Sweet. All right, so now that we have our starter solenoid working, our air filter cap's on. I just changed the oil in the transmission again and everything looked really good. No signs of water. I think we got the last of the goop out of it. That looks pretty gear oily to me. I think this thing's ready to go. The carb, I believe it's an aftermarket carb. There's no adjustments on it to get rid of that bog, but it seemed to be pretty happy once you get it warmed up. So I'm calling this thing wrapped up, but there is one more thing we need to do before I let this thing go. All right, well, we slapped the tracks on. I don't know how in the hell you would keep these tight. They're way loose. I guess maybe it's because of the pins are worn out. There's some sort of special pin. It's like an 1/8" rod and it just has a collar in it. I just threw some TIG filler metal in to temporarily hold it. I just wanted to see what it looked like with these on here. It's now coming fast into springtime, and I think the tracks only really benefit you in the snow or in some real deep marsh. And I don't have either of those circumstances to really test it out on. But I'm not going to destroy my backyard. This side's much tighter. But man, does that look cool. So I just wanted to throw the tracks on and see what it looked like before I go ahead and list this thing for sale. That is right. We're going to get rid of the Argo. Which kind of stinks because it's absolutely dialed in right now. But this thing fills the same purpose that my Coot down there and down here in the machine shed, the Atex provides. So there's really no reason for me to have two 6x6s around, and the Atex has my heart a lot more than the Argo. This thing is a lot of fun, being 2-stroke, fast, old school, looks a little cooler in my opinion. The only thing it doesn't have going for it is it doesn't have tracks. So by the time you guys see this video, it's probably going to be gone, as I already have it posted, and it seems to be getting a lot of interest. Now, these are worth a good bit. This one with the tracks especially, worth a whole of a lot more than the $500 I spent on it. But being that it was in water, and you could still 100% tell it was in water, even with all that cleaning, there's no hiding it, and I'm not going to try to in any way. I'll be very honest about the condition I found this thing in and the work that it needed it, and so on. That'll hurt its value a lot, but we're going to go ahead and sell it and find the next small, weird little unit to go ahead and revive and so on. Can't keep them all, right? So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please let me know down below, and maybe throw out some suggestions of the next type of machine I should look out for. We've been doing a lot of amphibious machines lately and watercraft, so maybe we'll try something a little different next time. And I hope I see you guys in the next one. So anyway, see you later.